All right. So this is the second extra bonus video for our application. So congratulations for making it this far. We've effectively done everything we needed to do. And, if you did the last video, then you even added some cool particle animation like this. In this video, what we're going to do is actually just focus more on some just JavaScript and some React front-end development together. So if you're interested in just honing on those skills a little bit more, thinking about building extensions, extended functionality, or just getting more familiar, running through some exercises on working with React, working with JavaScript and the coding language frameworks, then what we're going to do in this video or in the next following videos is we're going to build a timer effectively, and we're going to give it state and dynamics just like we were doing with our contracts. And this timer is going to be a airdrop timer. And what it's going to do is, you know how we wrote this airdrop down here and we talked about adding this airdrop feature. So we're going to create a timer that just counts down as an insensitization for our customers, for our stakers, so that we can do it. Imagine if we had a website or we had a newsletter and we can tell all of our customers, all of our investors, all right, anyone who invests or stakes over 50 tokens, let's say, we're going to say 50 tokens, there's going to be an airdrop that's going to occur, and they're going to receive an amount of rewards for doing that. Okay, so our airdrop effectively is going to have a timer that counts down after they make a stake. We're going to make the counter like 20 seconds just for the purposes so we can actually see it work. And then after that, we reward tokens because either we get a message, we'll get an alert, or we can figure out the functionality to do that. Now, I'm not going to do all of that. I'm not going to do all that. We're just going to work on essentially we're going to build out the functionality, think about the architecture, do some state, build it out, think about hooking it up to the smart contract. But I'm going to leave you to actually finishing this. This is a final bonus exercise for you to work on, to think about. But we are going to run through quite a bit together. So that's it. Okay, so that's it for an introduction on what we're going to be doing. Let's get to the more fun stuff, which is actually doing it, right? Okay, so remember, we need to have our Ganache open as always, and we need to have our contracts migrated up. We need to have our contracts migrated up and compiled to the proper Ganache instance. Okay, everything has to be connected on MetaMask, and of course, we also need to be running our localhost server, and we do that by npm run start. Okay, so make sure that everything's up, the localhost server's up, and you're good to go, and it's working. Okay, so now once we have everything set up, we can go into our text editor. Okay, and back in our text editor, let's just think for a second. All right, where do we want to put this airdrop? Where do we want to write this airdrop logic? Where do we want the functionality to go? And this is an important part of developing the applications is thinking about, well, where are we building our code? How are we building it out? Where do we put the logic, and where would we keep the logic in one file versus another? And what's the architecture as we continue to develop? So what I want you to do is to just think about, okay, I want you to look at the application, the main app, the navbar, particle settings, everything that we built so far, the contracts, the file folders. Take a look at everything, then pause the video and think about for yourself, well, where is the best place to write out the airdrop logic? So go ahead, give that a shot, and then I'll see you after that. All right, so hopefully you thought about that and you came up with some interesting ideas. Now I'm going to tell you what I think is the best move. And of course, this is, it's subjective, right? But as long as you have an efficient, scalable thought process for building that your components can be integrable and interoperable, then you're on the right path. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. So where would we actually want to put our airdrop feature? Well, we can put it in our main app, for example, right? Because in our main app, we have blockchain data, we have contract data, we know we're going to be hooking it up to some staking tokens featuring, because we need to make sure that it's staking the tokens. And we already have state, right? Because we know that we're going to create a timer. The timer is going to be dynamic. So we could be putting it adding to our constructor already. We set up the constructor. We have state for our account contracts and our accounts. So maybe we could put it in this app. Well, I'm going to say actually, no, let's not do this here. And here's why. I mean, those reasons make sense. But the thing is that we have to remember that our app.js is effectively really just for loading the contracts, making sure the contracts are loaded, having our loading bar, and then rendering out all the final details. So our particles, our nav, and our main, right? Essentially, this is what our app is for. So if we start adding a timer on here and adding state for a timer, it could get confusing because now all of a sudden we're doing contract loading and we're creating this airdrop timer, and it doesn't really make sense, in my opinion, to do it here. All right, so where else could we think about doing it? Well, what about main.js, right? Well, in the main.js, if we scroll down, we know that we have our forms here, we have our buttons, and we even wrote our airdrop out over here, right? Like we wrote airdrop. So doesn't it make sense then to put our airdrop here since we wrote airdrop over here, right? Like if we go back here, we see airdrop. Well, I'm going to say no again. And here's why. Effectively, there's no state in this component. This is a stateless component that just renders out information that we're sending through props. So we send over the state props of the staking balance, and we have our forms and we can submit, and our airdrop. And I just want to keep this main section like that. I don't want to start confusing this file by adding timer functionality and all this other type of functionality into this file. That's not something I want to do. So, but however, I can see us actually importing the airdrop into here. So just like how we import the main into the app, we can import the airdrop into here and then reflectively display it down here so that it will be displayed when we go into our app.js because it's going to carry the information over. Hopefully that makes sense. It's just a question of wiring it through. So where does that leave us then? We're not going to put it obviously in the nav bar. Well, you probably guessed it by now. The best move for us to do, in my opinion, is to create a new component called airdrop, write all the functionality of the state, keep it in the airdrop component, and then bring it into our main like that. Okay, so that's it for just going over what we're going to be doing, as well as the architecture as well as a synopsis on how we should build out the architecture for this code. So now that we've done that, in the next video, let's actually start writing out the shell and building out and initializing our state for our airdrop timer. Okay, very cool. I'll see you in the next video.